Today in the shop, we got to do some work on Joe's 888 Ducati fairing. And we're starting the second side. The first side, we're waiting for the clear to be delivered. We had to take care of all our battery flips and things out in the backyard, cut ice and everything. But this is the part that's going to need a lot of attention. When you look at it close, you can see how many paint chips there are up in the front. We have to figure something, and the next time I see Joe in person, we'll make a decision if he wants to get rid of that rubber piece or if he's going to replace the other one. I showed how I thoroughly degrease it using ordinary materials like simple green. And then I showed a little bit of how I steam clean parts, how and why it works so efficiently, both sides, inner and out. It benefits when you're going to do a labor-intensive job like we're going to do on this fairing, including probably replacing all the clear. This job itself, it looks like this wouldn't be that big of a job, but believe me, when you start working on collector bike parts, parts that are irreplaceable, and you have to really be creative sometime, and I'm going to try to share the way I do the repairs on these things and how I've been pretty successful at doing it many times in the past to save these parts. Now, unfortunately, we have another day of unpredictable weather, and I contacted Joe. He said the clear was coming, so we'll be able to do his project. If it doesn't snow today or tomorrow, or they're predicting one, then you go to the other channel, they're predicting no snow. I don't know what's coming, but I always try to plan more than one possibility for a day, just in case the weather's good, and what if the weather's bad. Now it's funny, I showed Rob that little video tribute I did to him at the end of yesterday's video. He thought it was pretty cool, and he says, when do I get to ride the RD again? Well, it's ready to go, baby. All we need is time, all we need is weather. God, is this a crazy winter. Maybe it's better where you are, but this is the nuttiest winter we've had, most unpredictable in a very long time. But the thing to always remember this time of year, we're only 2 months away from that phone ringing off the hook. Let's meet at Choppers, let's ride today. Oh, it's going to be 40 degrees, it's going to be 50. Oh, everybody, the flowers always bloom in spring, and we're going to be, another thing that Karen is already planning. She's already got seed catalogs, planning out this enormous garden, even bigger than what we had last year. So I have a feeling I'm going to be a busy boy for the next, well, if we make it to the summer with this crazy winter. And again, she keeps track of the weather for me every day so she can give me little updates and everything. And sometimes I'm planning, all of a sudden, going to be snowing at 5 o'clock. Oh man. So anyway, what we are getting through, and we are actually getting some stuff done. Now, one choice I do have with my Evil Twin project, and I haven't figured it out yet, and I guess people that do these things that I do for a hobby or for fun or whatever, what happens is, I wanted to get the first wheel done, clear, tire mounted, curvy valve in, and have it ready to go. My original plan, again, was to get it on the bike, get the old wheel on this, and then take the front wheel off. But that's maybe going to change based on this weather is kind of making us change. But every day I try to plan something that I can get done if the weather is bad and if the weather's good. Now, if the weather stays bad like it's supposed to be today, I think I'll work on that other fairing part for the Ducati. That part's going to need an extensive cleaning. I got to figure out what I'm going to do with that rubber on the back, and I can start the sanding. So maybe as I looked outside and I saw how the weather was and checked the temperature and the possibility of snow, I think realistically we're going to work on that Ducati fairing today. Every morning chopping the ice is so much fun. Oh, I'm so glad I had a pond. Oh my God. Couldn't be more fun than this. Keeping a hole in that ice is just a lot of maintenance. And it's time to get in and have coffee. Get out of this tundra out here. It's an unpredictable day. I don't know what else you can say this time of year. It's time for what we do best. Drink extra coffee. So as I come down into the shop and I start to figure out what exactly I want to do here, well, this is what I always do first thing after having my coffee. The wheel is ready for clear. This is ready for clear. So now the first thought I had this morning was, maybe if we get a paintable day, we don't have it yet, and Joe said the clear is in transit, what we'll be able to do is get both of these clears done in one day. Well, that leaves me with this job. Now this has a lot of little repairs on it, the biggest of which is the bottom here, and I've been putting this off because I wanted to think of exactly how I wanted to do that. I didn't want to rush into it and then say, oh, I shouldn't have done it that way. Especially up here, we've got some cracking, some parts, and what I thought would be appropriate at the end of it to sand the whole thing with 1000 grit and get the clear. Now see what we will be able to do. If we do that, we'll be able to bury the decals even better. But I'm sure that part, that paint is old. That is going to be trickier than you think it is. So, but the first thing I can do today is get the part clean. So before I get started, first thing to do is assess the damage. This has got a lot of stone chips. Obviously, it's been track day. This is a typical track day thing. We'll try to clean that up. The paint up here is pretty good, but this is a deep gouge. I guess this was from, I think Joe said, from putting it on a trailer. And we've got some paint chips in here. And this is a big one here. There's actually a crack. I'm going to try to reinforce that from the back if I can. That's another thing. But the biggest one here to do, the biggest thing of doing any of these repairs is you got to start somewhere. And the biggest thing to do is never, ever work on a part or get sandpaper anywhere near it until it's perfectly clean. And so the first thing today, we'll work on getting this clean. First thing I like to do, I like to use Simple Green as my primary cleaner. Give it several coats and then steam clean it. Now the other issue is I've got to clean in the back here. This is really dirty and you can see crap in there. But I don't want to remove this rubber. I know Joe can't. I don't know what he's going to do with the rubber. I don't look. It's already coming off. In fact, maybe it's off that I can't even keep it on. But we're going to have to see. That's another thing. Once it's clean, but you can see this got some cracks back here. Little things that I have to do. I don't know. Again, I'm starting off this job not knowing if that rubber has to come off or not. And if it does, well, that's a whole nother issue. But first I want to try to clean the other side. All right, ordinary Simple Green. There's probably other products that are just as good, maybe some that are better, but it seems like I always default back to Simple Green whenever I'm doing this kind of work. Now, the simplest thing is, first of all, you've got to get it to let it soak, let it sit for a minute or two, and that's always something that's hard to explain to people. See, here's what people want to do, and this is a mistake. This is something you can avoid. They go, okay, I'm done, I'm clean. Yeah, well, if only that were the case. It's not like that at all. I want this Simple Green to penetrate. I want it to go down in there. Here's the reason. When I start sanding here, any silicone, any wax, any contaminant, I'm just going to molecularly push it down into the grain of the product here. And it's going to be one more chance that I don't get it as good of a repair. Look at what's already coming off. I didn't even start this yet. Well, I do this cleanup 3, 4, 5 times. It doesn't really matter. Simple Green is an inexpensive product. But the big thing that helps is once you have the Simple Green on everything and you've got them, that usually takes most of the wax and the grease and the road grime and everything off. The steamer, because it's using heat, the heat expands on a molecular level and it lets the silicone, the grease and everything just disperse. Without the heat, a second choice would be just warm the part to 160 degrees or something. Well, good luck with that. But the steam is the way to do it, and I'm glad Joe in Myrtle Beach is having good luck with his steamer. He's been experimenting with some other tools. I hope we're going to hear from him soon. And this is basically, as many times as you do this, you can't overdo it. That's the one thing. And then the last time, I'm going to take this, take one more coat of Simple Green, and again, Simple Green's relatively inexpensive, and it's not as toxic as, even though it has a very aromatic smell, it's not anywhere as near as bad as trying to do this with Prep Wall or M600 or any of the real high chemical content cleaners. So just letting this sit, we're letting the steamer warm up, and we'll get right into cleaning this up. Now I know our little Harbor Freight steamer that I bought, it's about a $100 tool. I know Joe has one. I know John Pothia has one, among other people. And everybody that has one seems they get good use out of it. And I found another thing. I had ice on my snooping because Karen, we had to go to the doctor that day. I wanted to melt the ice. This took care of the ice in a matter of minutes. Now, I want to get as much of this loose grime as I can off of this. And, well, I know that rubber is flip-flopping along, so I don't know. See, I'm trying not to have to remove that rubber, but realistically, I think it's going to come flopping off when we do clear or we do something else. And see, the other thing is, see how dirty this is? I don't want to be touching the part, and then I go touch the part I'm painting. So getting this clean is really a big part of the job. People think, oh, I'll clean my bike. It'll take 15 minutes. Yeah, well, if you clean it the way I cleaned it anyway, or other people I know that really maintain their bikes right up to the nice level, well, it takes time. And it's one of the joys of, you know, of anything. If you have a Corvette, if you have a motorcycle, if you have, no matter what, what your pride and joy is, well, this is going to be, there's a lot of grit on the inside of this, and I really don't know. I don't want to pull this off, but it's flip-flopping along here. And what happens when you're painting, if this flips and flops, I don't know how I can get around this yet. I'm going to have to think of maybe putting tape around that. I'm afraid to put tape because this is falling apart, actually. So anyway, we have time to think about it. And as soon as that steam cleaner's up to temperature, yep, it is already. It's time to go. Now I'm going to leave that little bit of, in fact, I'll put a little more in there. Let it just soak in. When I'm all done with this, I'll put the towels right into the washing machine, and I will at least have this part degreased. Now I keep all my steam cleaning accessories in a bag in a laundry basket here, and they give you enough of them that it's really something. Here's the one I'm looking for. Here's the other one. They give you these brushes that are very handy, and the steel one, of course, if you're doing prep in aluminum or something, you do want to do paint with that one. But the one that's relatively soft, this is a good one for doing what we're doing right now. Okay, once I know it's up to speed and I got the little brush, there's no grit on the brush, I can just start scrubbing away, and I mean scrubbing. See, this is what people think that's wrong. You think you're going to do this, and it's going to be clean. You've got to have the brush end, and by the way, don't put your hand there, and scrub away to get that last little bit of silicone and grease and everything out of there. And this is what we want to do. Now in the past, when I'd get back from riding a bike in salty weather, I'd take at least the bottom of the fairing and use this. It worked great. The wheels work great. Just look at the bikes, you can tell they've been cleaned at least half properly anyway. But scrubbing away at this, especially the part that we're going to sand the most, this should get a lot of it off. Let's hope. Now this isn't fast forward, of course. I spent a good amount of time really trying to get this part immaculate. Only because there was a lot of dirt on the back, and I really wanted to make sure this stuff doesn't wind up in the final finish of clear that we hope is going to be even better than the factory finish that's on there now. So I really did spend a lot of time, and I guess you can see it in your final step, using nothing but clean paper towels to wipe that down, because there may still be some grease mixed in with that liquid that's on there. Once I get this wiped down, maybe what I'll do is just redo this one more time, because I always have to keep in mind on a job like this is an irreplaceable part. If this were something from a modern bike, you could just go to Motorcycle Mall or Portzilla and just go buy another one. But when you're dealing with irreplaceable treasures, and you know, to some people they'd say, it's an old bike, but you know what? It's like my RD or my GS. To me, they're treasures, and I can't go buy new ones, so I have to try to make them as good as I can and maintain them. And that steam and a good cleaning, this is a big part of what we're going to do to this part now. And I don't know how much of this we're going to get done today. Every day of here is variable, but having starting, if you get nothing else out of watching this video, that the part has to start clean. You don't start with something that's got oil and WD-40 and dead mice underneath it and everything. And I think you can even feel, when you do a good steam cleaning, what happens, you can feel how clean it is. You don't have any of that residual crap that's on there. Again, the back, I don't know. This is going to be mystery meat. But, see, I know Joe, for instance, I know is a passionate person about his motorcycles. And when somebody is, I know Vlad is, and Luciano is, and, you know, Vince is. The group of people that comprise the A-Team take a lot of pride in their motorcycles. It isn't just like turn the key and go for a ride. It's anything but that. There's a lot more to it than just going for a ride. And the fact when you want to ride the wheels off them and have them look good, well, it's not as easy as it looks. There's a lot of work involved to having that. Okay, I need to find some way to jig this up that I can get this, that it's reasonable to work on it. It's got to be off the table. This is the worst spot of the whole fairing. So what I want to do, just to be ultra safe, make sure there isn't any embedded grease. It's brake part cleaner, and it won't matter if it makes the paint cloudy. Right now we got to do some grinding, and hopefully we have this part clean enough. Normally you don't want any chemicals at all touching fresh paint. This paint is probably 25, maybe more years old. I don't know. I don't know what year this bike is, to be honest. Okay, so we have a spot here, and now what I want to do is just to be perfectly safe, I want to kind of back mask off the part I don't want to sand with tin foil, just for my own, so I'm not banging on it and rubbing on it and tend to scratch it. What I'm trying to decide here, not sure if this is going to be exactly what I need to do, but I see the paint is good from here, and this is just to rough it in. I need to go, there's a distortion here, there's a repair here. So basically, let's see if I can do this. Hard to use tape with gloves on. If I can do this to this, pretty much this is going to be my repair area here. Now let me get out some tin foil. Do the same thing. And this is just to protect it from the most obvious things that could happen while you're in this position. I can't wait for the day to come when you can go to Harbor Freight and buy gloves again. Boy, oh boy, we're running down our supply of gloves here. Turbo Steve, he brought it, I don't know where he got them. Maybe he found some source, but he shared a box of them last time he was here. Thank you, Turbo Steve. We're already using them, I think. Okay, so this is my point. You got to protect the area when you're doing a job like this that you're not going to be touching. Because I don't want that to take a beating, but I know this whole area now here, this whole thing, I can sand. Now from a scratch like this, you can see some of this paint is really loose. And the steam cleaning helps get rid of all this loose stuff, but we basically are going to sand this off anyway. This is all going to have to be repainted. And we need to go, right now, we need to go right down into that first coat of polyester. And up here, we need to sand that really. That's going to be probably a labor-intensive job. So because this whole area has to be sanded, I'm going to start with some 180 and a soft block and just do this by hand, because if I go at this with a machine, I'm going to be taking more material off than I really want, and I don't have that big of an area to do. When I'm done with this, I'm hoping I'll have a relatively smooth area. I guess we're going to find out. And a nice blend. Now I wanted to do, as I always do, I wanted to do one in real time, which will be this one, of course, and this one area where we've really chipped up the paint. And the trick is, of course, not to remove any more material than I have to, but to keep it nice and smooth, and a nice blend into the pink primer. And I think we're going to get that with the 180, but let's see how this plays out. I'll do this in real time so you can see it. Maybe it's a little boring, but you can see what we're striving for here. Okay, so let me just dust this off. Now, because we know it's as clean as we can make it. Okay, now I can still feel that scratch, so if I can feel it, I really ought to sand that to where I can't feel it. Now notice I'm not taking the 180 grit and going up here. I'm only going as far the minimum I have to, because now after this I'll take a finer grade of paper and then go out, a finer grade out. And so when I wind up here, I'll be on very, very fine paper. Hopefully that I won't have a big blend that's hard to deal with. Now we'll find out. So, but again, wanted to show this in real time. I know it's kind of boring, but there are people that really like to know this. And I mean, my modeling friends, and I know this for a fact because I was one of them. I would check out some source of information, and I didn't care if it took me an hour if I could learn something, or any amount of time, about epoxy, paint, all of the skills you need to be a modeler. Well, when you're doing restorations like this, pretty much similar skills. Okay, so let's get, I think that's basically what we can do with the 180. Again, I'm doing it by feel. Now, if I close my eyes, I can't feel that. But it doesn't mean I'm going to go paint it. It means I'm going to now go to a finer grade of paper. Let me just show it without a camera cut. This is what I always like to do. No camera cut. You see the blend, how it feathers in, they call it feathering. And now we have to do the same thing up here, same thing down here, same thing to this corner and over here. And so my feeling is this probably is going to be a couple hours of work to get that the way I'm going to be happy with it before we do anything else. And again, starting with, I think this is 180. 180. I like to keep track of it myself. 180, and I'll probably go to 320 and then the 600. And each time I'll get the next screw. And so when I will be about 1/8 of an inch from the tape. I'll be using very, very fine paper and hopefully be able to get that blend in. Then the trick is going to be to see if we can paint right over this. And then that's going to be the test, is once you do that, can you get a nice blend edge that you don't see that tape edge? That's the trick. Not sure we're going to be able to do it, but we're going to give it a try. The other thing that's important to remember on a job like this is it's not going to take 5 minutes. And what happens when people start doing a job that a repair is going to take X amount of hours and they want to do it in 1/10 of X, well, sometimes when you have a job like this and you know you're restoring unobtainable parts, and they are treasures to the person that owns it and they're passionate about their motorcycles, well, sometimes this is the price you have to pay. Now, this is going to be several hours of sanding, and like I said, going out with each layer of sandpaper out further. But I think eventually the bottom line is that we are going to be able to salvage, when I say salvage, make this part at least as good as new, and hopefully a little bit better than when it was new. And by sharing that information, there's probably somebody out there that has a similar repair to do. Hopefully this will inspire them to do it. Now, I just thought I'd show this as a roll of that sticky back paper. This is a place that has a crack, so I've tried to clean off as much of the old material as I can, the old paint, try to keep the radius if possible. Hey, let's hope that's Joe saying that the paint just arrived. I don't know if I'm going to be that lucky. Okay, so we've got the shape there. Well, we get more sales calls on this house. I don't know if you do too. Maybe you do. We get these people selling aluminum siding. I don't know. They take a look at my house and tell that I already have aluminum siding, vinyl siding. I don't even know what I have. Anyway, we do get the calls. I bet you do too. Now see, now I can squeeze this back into shape and work that area. If I need to, I can get a reinforcement in the back. This is a really good tip. But that's basically what we're going to spend the rest of today doing, is just trying to prep this up and get as much of this done as we can. We're not going to be able to paint today. This is an unpaintable day as far as temperature and humidity and everything go, but getting this done will be one step. Yeah, I always say one step for mankind. And always do it at the end with the feel. By feel. Here in fast forward using 180 grit. This was a pretty labor-intensive little part to get this squared away and get rid of all the stone chip damage from the track day and rough it all in for the final sanding. Now, by the end of the day, I got this part at least ready for the smooth sanding, where we're going to try to blend in All this sanding was done with 180 grit. We're ready to go to finer grits next time we get to do a work session. But time, as always, time runs out, and there's always family things to do, and there's always obligations and shopping trips and everything else. But I was amazed we got this much done in one day. Well, it took a lot more time than I thought it would. I'll try to get that up in a light. A lot more time to work that area than I thought, but I think it came out great. We got to do a final sanding on it, and if it's paintable tomorrow, get some red paint on that. Even if we have to paint in the back room, I don't know. But a job like this is a big job, and if you try to rush it, you just make a mess, that's all. So, if you can see how much I got done, well, you've got to always work around the weather and around our family stuff, which I have no control over, of course. Now, the final thing is here. I want to thank the healthcare workers. Thank you guys so much for making it possible for me to have this opportunity to be healthy and be with my family and have birthday parties and work on motorcycles. And soon in the spring, go for some rides, of course. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks guys so much for watching. Now, we do try to post up something every day. These are some pictures from the album. I think it's 2014 or 2015, but I'm not sure. But this was a really good day. Luciano was riding his 748 Ducati that he bought from Joe. I was riding the RD. We met up with some people at Perry's. If I remember right, we went on one of our usual cruises to the moon. And then the best part, up at the top of Perkins, everybody oogling the bikes and checking out everybody's wheels and seats and whatever. And it just turned out to be, I do remember this day as being a real lot of fun. And sometimes, here's the old Harley, the 1914 Harley. He was there. Of course, we had the usual selection of police with the lights on, chasing people around. Check out the old Harley. And that thing starts on the first kick. Amazing. And some of the custom parts on some of the custom bikes, and there were plenty that day. Even the Harleys were in full force. And what would happen, we would get up to Perkins real early, before it really got too crowded, get a prime parking spot, hang out for a couple hours, and then the guys would come in and the thing would get all crowded, and this is Glenn's friend here, he was quite a guy. And we really did have, here's some Hayabusa stuff, there was so many people, and I miss every one of them. I miss these weekend interactions. Now, we've gone a whole year without Perkins, without having a normal bike get together like we normally would have, without masks and whatever. But it's something, because I have these pictures and because I'm able to share them conveniently with YouTube. The middle of the winter here, there's a foot of snow on the ground, and here we're looking at 1914 Harleys. I think there's something special about that. And so if you're snowbound like we are, and I'm not sure, we're going to wait for some good weather. We're going to try to get the clear on Joe's parts and maybe do that touch-up in the next couple of days. I got the rough sanding done, and believe me, that really is the hardest part of the job. And great memories of riding the RD. What could be better? So anyway, I hope you guys did enjoy the video, and thanks one and all for watching.